The shootout is more elaborate in this version, and there are a lot of changes that were made between what was done theatrically and this picture. If there's another title for these versions, this is probably not the director extended version or the director's cut. This is probably the director preferred version, preferred with the with the better vision of hindsight. This scene also was about to see with the Sherman family. Was these were all scripted. They were shot and then not in the theatrical. And my motivation for doing this scene and having it be in the picture was this is the lady who was in the bikini at the edge of the swimming pool that Dollahide was fantasizing on. She's an actress named Patricia Charbonneau.
What do you want?
My name is Will Graham. I'm with...
Oh, yeah, she's right.
My reason for having it in was to answer the question was to experience how Graham makes the transition or transcends the experience of killing Dollahide and of where he had taken himself when he had the epiphany, in fact, into a homicidal action of his own. And whatever damage Graham imposes upon himself by doing that, how does he get from there to, how does he make the transition from that into surviving the experience of getting that close to Dollahide? And it's to come see the people whose life he saved. To see that, just to see them in their ordinariness of them being alive. This cut was actually put together soon after the picture was released in 1986, and again, this picture was released into into an audience environment in which the term serial killer was unknown. If you talked about serial killer, people thought that somebody who murders Frosty Flicks, and so there was an exposition requirement in this picture. But the cut was made originally. I recut it for the movie channel, and so that's probably 1987. It was probably within a year of the release of the picture, and I always preferred this version to the one that had been released theatrically. Over the years, it was released a second time as a director's cut, but it never really had the attention that we've given it now in terms of remastering some of the pieces. One of the things that became difficult for us was to find some of the pieces of negative. Traditionally, those pieces are preserved and saved by studios. And in the fortunes that befell the production company that made this picture, that wasn't the case. So some of the missing pieces were constructed with 1-inch masters from the movie channel version. And it's basically the benefits of digital cinema that we enjoy right now that allow for directors, and give them the opportunity to go back and have this version be seen and realized. I come from a school of filmmaking in which I think it's almost an unconscious premise is that film is made in the editing room. That's where you make the film. Everything you're doing before then is accumulating, designing, shaping, and building, but accumulating the raw materials you need to make the film in the editing room. So that means that in the writing and in your director's preparation, you're planning what you're going to edit in the editing room, and then you better go out and make sure that you shot those things you're going to need in the editing room. And it's actually the Russian montage approach from the 1920s, which was then embraced by British cinema in the 30s, by Weimar cinema in the 20s and 30s, and then also migrated to some American cinema. So our orientation is actually from the editing room backwards to what we're shooting. So the way I think about what I'm going to shoot is very definitely how things come together in the edit. Now, I will modify it once when I see dailies, and a new editing pattern will present itself, and I'll direct the editors to edit it that way. But it's usually pretty close to what I've first imagined, or I at least want to see what I first imagined. Then, if that works, great. One hones it. If it doesn't work, you just change it and do something else. Editing is magic. It's where all kinds of things can happen, things you never thought you'd do before, or I might conceive of a scene as it being a very complex, very fast cut scene, intercutting static heads with a moving camera, and you get into the editing room and you see a high wide angle shot that slowly zooms in, and you say, this scene plays in this shot without a cut. It's the most musical, if you like, part of the process. It's where you take, Tarkovsky called it sculpting in time. It's where you take the totality of an experience and it plays. It plays as a symphony plays. It may play very poorly, it may play very well, but it definitely is something that plays across a time frame. And the ability to manipulate and shape the rhythms, the emphasis, the story you're telling in editing is almost total. It's quite extraordinary. I think I'd say in conclusion that making films is one of the most kind of, for everybody involved in it, from the camera department to production designer to Colleen Atwood, this fabulously talented costume designer who's worked with John Demme a lot, and did one of the other films, and working with the actors. It's a privilege to have found this profession and to be able to inhabit a sometimes very unpleasant, ugly, horrendous, sometimes very funny and dramatic, but definitely dynamic place for a chunk of time. And they become almost like I would imagine experiences of any intense experience, and you have a certain unification and almost familial sense. Then everybody goes on their way and they go off and they do other jobs, they do other films. But there's a particular intensity to the making of this film. I may not see Joan Allen for 5 or 6 years at a time, but if I bump into her backstage at a theater in New York or something, there's a bond there because of having done this. The same thing with Brian Cox, and of course Dennis Farina, who I've known for 22 years, and particularly with Billy Peterson. So there's a real kind of a privileged, and I feel privileged to have this experience and to work with the fine people who made this film.